Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today I'm coming at you talking about gold. Well, I talk about gold a lot, but today we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons gold is so valuable. Now, look, the price of gold has been rocketing upward recently. It's been just shooting up. It's currently, as I speak, it's around $2,000 an ounce. It's been a little higher, it's been slightly lower, but it's around $2,000 an ounce. Now, why is it so valuable? Why is it such that, a small amount of gold, and an ounce is not a lot, why is it that a small amount of gold is worth thousands of dollars? Well, gold has a lot of really unique and special characteristics, some of which are beautiful, some of which are special chemically, some of which are historically important as monetary value. And we're going to talk about all 5 reasons, main 5 reasons why gold is so valuable. So come with me. Let's look at the top 5 reasons of why gold is so valuable. So my reasons here are not in a special order. All 5 of these reasons are important, but we're going to start with because it's beautiful and easily used in art, jewelry, and architecture. It's just really beautiful stuff, and that's why mankind has prized it for thousands of years. So let's take a look at some of the special uses of gold in fine art, in jewelry, in sacred items, and in architecture and buildings.
Okay, so we'll start off taking a look at some beautiful jewelry first. This is a beautiful ancient Greek bracelet, and it's just amazing looking at the gold, how beautiful it is. You can see why man has treasured gold for jewelry and other purposes. Let's take a look at some more. And here is another beautiful ancient Greek bracelet. This one, of course, all gold with no stones, but still, it's just amazingly beautiful. And you can see we put in a lot of work to create this kind of art, even back in the ancient days. But the Greeks weren't the only ones who prized gold. This is an Egyptian gold ring with a scarab beetle made out of lapis lazuli, and the ring part, of course, made out of gold. It also is extremely beautiful. And here's another example of Egyptian artwork in gold. This is basically a king's ring with the crocodile symbolizing power. Of course, gold was highly prized in all the ancient cultures. This is an early Roman ring with gold and garnets. This beautiful ring is from the Byzantine part of the Roman Empire and comes from a little bit later time period. It was only just recently discovered off the coast of modern Israel in the ocean. It has a carving or an algo of a good shepherd and symbolizes the early Christian motifs. Of course, when one thinks of royalty and of crowns, just about all crowns, are made out of gold. This beautiful crown symbolizes the type of thing that one thinks about. It shows power and wealth, and powerful kings and rulers would have gold around them in life and in death. This being from the tomb of King Tut. Because gold can be formed into very thin sheets, it can be used to cover and decorate all sorts of artistic items. These statues have been gilded with a thin coating of gold. Here, a thin sheet of gold, not quite as thick as the gilding used on those statues, but a fairly thin sheet of gold has been pressed around a carving and used to create a piece of art. This is from Southeast Asia. Few ancient cultures prized gold more highly than the pre-Columbian cultures of South America, who developed amazing techniques to cast the gold into beautiful pieces of artwork. They independently developed the process of lost wax casting, where a model was made of a wax type material and covered with surrounded with a material that would resist the molten gold, and then molten gold was poured into the space where the wax was, because they actually burned the wax off. They heated the material and burned the wax off. This process is used in making jewelry all over the world today, but was independently discovered in several different cultures. These pieces were used both in ceremonial religious ceremonies and to show off the power of kings and rulers. Now, a lot of this material was captured by the Spanish and taken off and melted and lost forever, but there still is considerable amount of these beautiful artworks that remain. Gold has been used for religious purposes all over the world, and not just in South America, but the famous mosque, the Dome of the Rock. Gold has been used beautifully also in a number of churches as well. In fact, because the way man views gold as being so extremely precious, it's been used for sacred buildings and objects all over the world and in cultures all over the world.
The second reason I want to talk about is that it never corrodes or deteriorates. It's useful in electronics and a lot of other industrial applications. Yeah, a significant part of gold that's mined every year goes into industrial uses. Maybe you didn't think of that, but every cell phone, every computer, cars, anything that has electronics almost, not necessarily electrical stuff like a stove or something, but anything with electronics has gold in it pretty much. And that's because the gold never corrodes or deteriorates. The golden contacts, see, what it's used mostly for is electrical contacts. And when you have things like switches or other types of devices where you plug something in, and there needs to be a good contact so that electricity can flow across the contact, gold is very commonly used for that because gold doesn't corrode. The problem is if you were to use some other metal like steel or something that rusts or corrodes, when you put those two contacts together, the rust is in between them, and rust and corrosion don't conduct electricity. But metallic gold does, and gold doesn't rust or corrode. So that's why it's important in industrial applications. Now, silver even and other metals tend to oxidize and corrode, but gold is a noble metal and it doesn't do that. Now, I mentioned that a lot of gold is used in electronics, and yet the bulk of that gold goes into landfills and is lost. Kind of strange that we throw gold away, but it happens because the amount of gold in a cell phone or other types of things is small. I'm actually going to do some videos. Stay tuned, because later in the year I'm going to come with a series of several videos about recovering gold from electronics. But gold has industrial uses. It's used in small amounts in glass because it reduces radiation from the sun, ultraviolet radiation and that sort of thing. And so specialized glass, the helmets of the astronauts have gold in them because it reduces the sun's radiation, because they don't even have any, when they're on the moon or something, or out in space doing a spacewalk, they don't have anything between them and the sunlight like the atmosphere that we do. So anyway, let's take a look at the industrial uses of gold.
This photograph illustrates just exactly what I mean. Now you can see the beautiful gold here. It's just as beautiful as the day it went down. This is actually all material from the famous Spanish treasure galleon Atocha. The gold, it had mud on it, probably on the bottom of the ocean. Just have to clean off the loose material and it would be bright and shiny as new. The black piece in the middle, however, is one of the bars of silver. And you can see that after sitting for a few hundred years on the ocean bottom, the silver tarnished and turned black. And silver is a pretty resistant metal that doesn't react easily. But gold is far ahead. So you can see that gold resists corrosion even in the most extreme kinds of condition. The gold pictured here are the edges of computer cards. Now the computer cards have electronics that have to connect to the main board, and in order to have a good clean connection, both the card, as you can see, is plated with gold, as well as the connector that the card plugs into. And by having a clean connection of gold, the card makes a good connection and is able to function properly. These are the integrated circuit chips that actually do the bulk of the computing inside personal computers. These are older ones, of course, but you can see quite a bit of gold on them. Some have gold foil on top. but most of them have gold legs on the bottom, as you can see on the underside. And what you can't see is within these chips, connecting the bit of silicon on the inside that actually does the computing to the legs on the outside that actually connect to the rest of the computer, there is gold wires that can connect the two. Gold works this way because it can be drawn into very, very tiny thin wires that allow the connection of things, and it conducts electricity fairly well. And so in these older chips like this, they were gold on top, gold on the inside, and gold legs on the outside. Now, because of the price of gold, operators or manufacturers have reduced the amount of gold, but they still contain some gold. And although most of the gold used in electronics eventually becomes waste, it is possible to recover the gold from these electronic circuits, as is kind of shown here. Now, it's fiddly kind of work that takes a lot of effort and takes time to recover the gold, but it is there to be found, especially in older circuits. As I mentioned, sometime this year in the coming months, I'm going to do a series of several videos on how to process computer chips or computer systems and extract the gold from them.
So reason 3, and this is one that a lot of people are going to be really into, gold is independent, historic, and universally accepted money. Now, governments come and go, politicians come and go. Politicians like to make money, manufacture and print money to give to their friends, their supporters, the people that like them so they can get elected or stay in power. That's the way it's been for thousands of years. But gold keeps its value. Gold is independent of governments and other political systems and that kind of thing. The first money that was ever made, the very first coins that anyone ever minted, were coins of a pre-weighed specified purity amount of gold. And people would take that because that was the concept. If you had a specific weight and a specific purity stamped as approved by the king, then you knew that those were good and that was valuable stuff. It wasn't fake. Paper money, it's accepted in a lot of places, but its value fluctuates. The government can manufacture money these days with the press of a computer button, create trillions of dollars that just gets manufactured out of thin air. And what happens is, as the government makes trillions of dollars, the dollars that you have in your savings or in your assets or whatever, the dollars that you have go down in value. Because there's only so much goods and services out there, and if the government manufactures a bajillion dollars, then your dollars go down and you have inflation. And the price of gas, the price of food, the price of housing, the price of everything goes up. It's not a good thing. Gold is the solid foundation for money. And we're going to talk about that. In fact, speaking of inflation and crazy stuff like that, there's actually been serious talk in government circles in the US government of creating a $1 trillion coin. Now they're going to take because there's some loophole in a law about the mint manufacturing collector coins that allows them to make a platinum coin of whatever value they see fit to make it for. They could make a $1 trillion platinum coin. And the mint, which is one arm of the government, could manufacture a dozen platinum coins that are valued, face value at $1 trillion, and just give them to the Fed, and now all our money debt goes away. It doesn't really work like that. It's a kind of a rabbit out of the hat fraud kind of thing. But anyway, let's talk more about gold as an independent, historic, and universally accepted form of money.
This is an example of the very first money ever made, and from the very beginning of when man started using the concept of money to exchange value, well, gold was there. It was gold that he formed into coins, stamped and approved as fixed weight, and that way people knew the value of what they were exchanging for a gold coin like this. It's over 2,500 years old. And gold kept right on being money. This is an image of Alexander the Great on a Greek coin that's ancient as well. In the early days of money, gold was always accepted. And for the Roman Empire as well, gold was money. This is a coin with the image of the famous Emperor Nero, who fiddled while Rome burned. He was perhaps the most hated of all the early emperors. And golden money wasn't always in the form of coins either. This neck chain would be worn by a wealthy individual, and each link would have a certain value. And so if you stayed at an inn or purchased something, you could cut off a few links of the chain and give it to the person as payment in value as money. Even the U.S. government used to make gold coins and distribute it as money, and we did so for well over 100 years. We did at least until 1933, when the government decided that citizens shouldn't have the right to hold gold, that should only belong to the government. So the government did what they could to seize the gold and offered to exchange your valuable gold coins for paper.
So item 4 is gold is portable and hideable wealth. Now, like I say, it's universally accepted money, and you can convert gold into any kind of currency in any place at any time. But gold is very portable. I mean, if you want to take $1 million and put it in, you're going to need a big old sack unless you're going to carry, well, first of all, the government doesn't like to print more than $100 bills. Because it helps people do fraud and money laundering and that sort of thing. So that's why the government doesn't print. They used to print 500 and thousands and other denominations. In fact, we used to have a $100,000 bill at one time, but now we only make hundreds. That's as big as you make. For us peons, the government figures that's big enough. So if you want to carry $1 million, you're limited to hundreds. It's going to be a big duffel bag full of loads of $100 bills, and it's going to weigh a lot of pounds. $1 million worth of gold, not very many pounds. In fact, $100,000 worth of gold, it's only a couple pounds. You can just easily slip it in your pocket and go away. You see the terrible tragedy of war going on in Ukraine these days, and people fleeing. The same thing happened in World War II. People fled. Having some gold that you can put in your pocket and take with you, no matter where you go, makes you a lot better off. If when catastrophe strikes, when horrible things happen, when war comes, having some gold is a pretty good thing to have because it's portable and hideable wealth. Let's talk more about gold as portable and hideable wealth.
This amazing treasure was found during construction of a theater in Italy. Someone had, in ancient days, put away a huge treasure of gold coins in a simple water pot and buried it. Now, most treasures get reclaimed and taken by the person that originally buried it, but this one, for whatever reason, did not, and it remained there for the centuries until it was discovered in recent years. We tend to put stuff in banks and to assume that anything deposited with a bank is 100% safe. But if you think that you could never, ever lose something out of a bank, well, that's just not true. It's probably safer than it is if it were at your house, but banks are not 100% safe. And in the past, in centuries long ago, banks weren't very safe at all. And that's why you got treasures like this. This is an amazing treasure found in recent years in the nation of Israel. It's similar in the sense that it contains quite a few gold coins buried in a pot below the surface of the ground, but for whatever reason, never reclaimed or recaptured by the person who put it in the ground. Some cultures just have very little confidence in the banking systems of their nations, And we, in modern times, in developed nations, probably have a little too much confidence in our banks, maybe a little more than is actually justified. Sometimes when there are catastrophes, banks close or they're unavailable. You can't get the money out due to government laws. You're restricted. So having some portable wealth that you can take with you at your own decision, your own choices, that can be really handy. Like I say a minute ago, when wars come or disasters strike, having some portable money is well worth having. And just a little bit of these can really go a long way. Because of gold's very high value, something like the 100-ounce bar pictured in this video would be worth close to $200,000. And the weight of something like that is only a little less than 7 pounds of regular avoirdupois weight. That you could haul away a couple $100,000 easily, and it would be easily concealed. That's why gold is valuable as portable wealth in times of catastrophe.
Our fifth of the top 5 reasons that gold is so valuable is that gold is rare and hard to find. You just can't snap your fingers and manufacture some more gold. It's one of the rarest elements in the Earth's crust. It's not common. You don't have to worry that, I acquired some gold for 2,000 an ounce, and next year some guy is going to go out and find a mine with a bajillion ounces of gold, and suddenly my gold is going to be worth $10 an ounce. Not going to really be worth anything because there's so much of it out there. You don't have to worry about that. It's a rare element. All right? And, that's actually part of why I think gold is so valuable. You see, years ago, we used to find as much or more new deposits of gold as we mined out. So if all the world's gold mining companies combined, I'm just pulling a number off the top of my head, let's just say they mined and dug 50 million ounces in a year, all of the world's companies combined. And, we would find 50 or 60 million ounces of new deposits of gold to replace what we'd mined out. Well, here's the thing. We haven't done that in decades. No, today, if we were mining, say, 50 million ounces a year worldwide, we're finding 20 to replace it. And what happens is the inventory of ore that mining companies have to mine has been going down and down and down and down and down. This is a phenomenon that people call peak gold. In other words, we already hit the peak production of gold. It's getting harder and harder and harder. It used to be that, you had to have mines have to have a certain grade to be economic. Well, now mines work on ores that are a quarter of that or a tenth of that and still make money because the price has gone up. Obviously, what you can make for a mine, if gold is at $300 an ounce, you can afford to mine certain rich ores. But if gold is at $2,000 an ounce, you can afford to mine lower grade ores. And that's what's happening. We're not finding enough to make up for what we're mining. And so we're having to have prices go up because it's just not possible to keep mining rich ore. We mine the rich ore, it's gone. So gold is rare and it's hard to find. And that's why gold is so expensive. Let's talk a little bit more about industrial mining and the rarity of gold. We'll take a look at that right now.
Modern commercial gold mining is done on a huge scale with big open pit mines and literally millions of tons of rock to get mined and processed. It's just done on a gigantic scale to work relatively low grade materials that just have only a small amount of gold per ton of rock. These huge mines take millions and millions of dollars, actually hundreds of millions, to get started, and millions of dollars to find originally in the first place. And of course, finding a mine is never guaranteed. They spend millions and sometimes they don't find anything. It's a lot of work, and that's why we don't find as much as we mine. We're mining the reserves out faster than we're finding new gold. That's why the price of gold is going to have to go up eventually. The process used to extract the gold in these big operations is to just stack the material that's been mined, the ore, up in giant hills and piles of material, and then they sprinkle cyanide on it, and the cyanide dissolves gold, and it dissolves any silver if it's present, and then they collect the cyanide water and extract the gold and any silver out of it. This photo shows the process. In the background in front of the dark colored hills are a set of hills that seem to have layers, and it's these layers that are the layers of ore that they've put down and are sprinkling cyanide over. Even for the individual prospector, gold is hard to find. This is a nice nugget I found a while back, and it's just not easy out there, and it gets harder and harder because the gold doesn't grow back. Gold prospecting is a skill, but gold is not easy to find because it's rare stuff.
Okay, let's put it all together. I'm having a summary of why gold is so valuable. We've talked about the top 5 reasons, how it's so beautiful and it's used in all kinds of artwork and things. We've talked about how resistant to corrosion it is, and so it can be used in electronics and other industrial uses. How it's an independent and universally accepted form of wealth that isn't dependent on some government or some politician. We've talked about how it's portable wealth that you can take with you, that you can, take in times of crisis. And we've talked about how rare gold is, that it's not something that's just common that you can find everywhere. Now, my recommendation, and has been for years, is that you acquire some gold for yourself. Now, you can go out and buy it. It's expensive, but it's available to be bought in various forms, coins and, jewelry and whatever. Or you can go out and find it. That's what I do. Chris Ralph, the professional prospector. I go out and find gold. And if you're interested in that, you can watch my videos. But finding gold is a skill, and my videos talk about gaining that skill. But I also wrote a book about it, and the book has just gobs of information. It's basically an encyclopedia on how to find gold for yourself. And there's still gold out there. Don't let anybody tell you that the old timers got it all. They got the easy stuff, they got the obvious stuff, but if you have the skill to find gold, you can go out and find gold for yourself. Yeah, you're not probably gonna strike it rich with a brand new find and make bazillions of dollars, but you can, over time, acquire a substantial amount of gold. I have. My safety deposit box can confirm it. But I wrote this book, and the book I wrote for you guys so that you could understand the skills of learning to find gold. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now. So let me tell you a little bit more about my book. It's called Fistful of Gold, and I wrote it because I want you to be able to go out and find for yourself Fistful of Gold. And you can see that it's an encyclopedia with all kinds of information, pictures, and that sort of thing. It's not in color, but color would have cost me a lot more to have printed, and so the book would have cost a lot more. It's for sale on Amazon, and you can pick it up. I'll put a link in the description below. I also serve as the editor for a prospecting magazine. It's ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal. And honestly, you should check that out. We got stories and information, legal stuff, everything you know to increase your skills as a prospector. I write articles in this every month, and a lot of other very experienced prospectors contribute to the magazine as well. So check the magazine out. Also, I have a website, and the website is at NevadaOutbackGems.com. I'll put a link for it in the description below, but there's gobs of information there that you will find useful in your prospecting efforts. Finally, I want to say that I really appreciate your comments and thoughts, and even positive criticism. Don't come on there and just toss out insults, because I'll just delete your comments. But if you've got helpful things to say and questions to ask, do write and put those in the comments, because I answer my comments to people, and you'll hear from me in responding to you. So if you've enjoyed this video and you like what you see and you're interested in finding out more, well then sign up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so they'll let you know when I post new videos. And like it and share it if again you see stuff that you really are excited about. And I'll be coming out with lots more new videos, and so we'll see you again real soon.